But I'm here always, in universities with some apprehension. There's always these sites of power, right? They exist to train the managerial class. They exist to train the capitalist managerial class. But there are always sitios de resistencia, as the Zapatistas have taught us, right? There's always moments where you can subvert and disrupt. But there are other institutions that are far more complex, as we all know. These are far more pervasive. Patriarchy is one that is everywhere and you don't see it. And imperialism is everywhere and you do see it. Especially where I'm from in San Antonio, we're surrounded by 5 military bases. So it's just hard to not know that you are a colonized people, right? But what I want to talk today about are both of these things, right? The pervasiveness of institutions of power, such as patriarchy, and also imperialism and the intertwining of these performances of power that usually come at our expense as a community, but always at women's expense. The poetry that I'm going to share is from 4 different books. And they all, in one way or another, take the challenge from Chicana feminism very seriously, that we, the men, have to own up to the roles that we play, own up to the twisted models of masculinity that we are intertwined into, and try to somehow ally ourselves, and it's not easy. The first step is to identify how we're part of the problem. So what I want to do today is offer what I'm calling critical masculinity in my poetry. And I choose poetry because it enables me to deal with the ambiguities. It enables me to do something different than I can do as a scholar, as a research scholar. As a research scholar, I say, this is oppression. This looks like, this is the enemy. This is who's being victimized. And of course, those are also more nuanced and more complicated. But in poetry, it's harder to identify the exact moment where the oppression is taking place, because it usually involves a lot of different people and an excess of forces. And poetry also enables me to practice the Chicana feminist, the leftist autocritica, the practice of critiquing oneself for the purpose of helping us map new models of power, new ways for intervening. That's what we learn from testimonials from Chicana feminists, from people like Churi Moraga, and from Rigoberta Menchú, from Guatemala, and all the Zapatistas, and all the guerrilleros from Nicaragua, all the way to the Southern Cone, right? Testimonial has always been a method of identifying our failures and our problems so that we can keep theorizing power, keep figuring out how we need to intervene. So, with that said, what I want to do is begin with a poem about my barrio, right? I'm going to show a video in a bit, but I'm going to share 1 or 2 or 3 poems from a first collection called Sombras de Sangre, Shadows of Blood, about growing up in a place called Magnolia in Lower East Side of Houston, Texas. And the first one I read is called Vietnam. And I think it's particularly important to read and to identify and to speak about what warfare means on the home front. And this is about a tío and a tía. And it's called Vietnam. Not the needles crawling up my arm, nor polka bass beats, snare drums, and wheezing accordion promise of amor eterno could wiggle me awake. Not the sound of salt spread on Tío Pablo's living room floor so couples could slide into each other. Ama, with the man who knocked her into a tub once. Aunt Hilda, who always smiled despite broken front tooth. Tia Josie, trying to stay in step, not sure what to do with children spilling from couch to floor, wondering what happened to the man she married on a dance floor in Pflugerville, Texas 12 years ago, shrinking tonight from the whiskey he forced her to drink in shots, holding tighter to keep from falling into the whirlpool till he grabs her throat and long black trenzas for scuffing his spit-shine jump boots, the silver Christmas tree cushion, glass balls popping like faraway rifle shots, a tripwire of flashing little lights, wrapping legs, arms, and necks like a couple of corpses tied to an army truck roaring down a road in Vietnam, so loud I couldn't believe Ama's "Shh, mijo, shh," No, go back to sleep. It isn't Santa Claus. As I told you, in my family, when we have vacations, if afterwards no one is injured, it was a good holiday. And it's tragic. Well, this other one I want to read to Dio. He's the one who, he used to be a boxer, but he also taught me some martial arts. He was a real good martial artist. And it's called Ode to the Pontiac Grand Prix. And I share this poem because it explores how this code of masculinity that men in my family live by, and men in many other families, not just Latinos. We didn't invent sexism, even though the term machismo is oftentimes bandied about as if we invented it. No, we're part of the whole sexist paradigm. But in any case, I want to share this poem because it shows how this code of machismo that involves a lot of violence also traps the very men who perform it, the very men who think they're benefiting from it. And this is it's from Tio Quique. So it's called Ode to the Pontiac Grand Prix. Grand Prix, Tio Quique smiled. Best car around for getting pussy. Golden hood, V-shaped like a bikini, red pinstripes pointing the way. In 1978, cars shrunk into boxy squared corners, but you ordered 8 cylinders anyway, custom. A little extra work on the carburetor to make it faster than the police, who would hunt you down for 10 years. A nickel-plated .25 caliber pistol tucked beneath the Kmart seat mat, loaded around in the chamber, always, just in case. The getaway car, your eldest son, driving you across the border, away from family, work, the friend who fucked your wife, he had to die. 21 years, you were lucky to get out an 8. The rest of your sentence served in a flame-retardant silver suit at the refinery. Time and a half to pay off a new loan for the rusting red pickup. Dreaming of a car, sleek corners, faster than it should have ever been. So another poem I want to read from this collection, Sombras de Sangre. It basically is about death. That's everybody in my neighborhood is dying or killing somebody or strung out or killing themselves. And this one is for my friend Richard. I worked in a union, grocers union. I was a stalker, and he was the guy who trained me. Basically, we smoked weed all the time because it's a deadening job, right? That's how we can do stalking all night. It's a good job. It's a good union job. But pendejo, one night he just decided to steal a truck, and the cops killed him. So, just my homenaje for him, but also in solidarity with all the protests on the Fruitvale and non-stop brutality against us, against working people. Even when we make mistakes, we don't deserve to get killed. This is for Richard. Borrowed blue truck. Lightning loud as the backfires, someone later testified to hearing on the 10th or 12th mile after an unknown number of switchbacks and wrong way turns through Saturday night stairs in Sugar Land, Texas. Red, white, and blue strobe light, siren shrieks country folk never hear except when someone who doesn't belong tries to steal a truck to impress a girlfriend, grown bored with the back seat of the pure white Cougar Custom that would have been all paid after 2 more years of night shift stocking at Kroger's, if not for the blue truck. Chrome wheels, engine still running at the Texaco station. Just take it around the block. You wink your best author funds are ready before hitting foot to floor to see, just to see if you can get away with playing the role in that childhood TV show you refuse to let die, until the thunder shattered rearview window like an iceberg boulder splash, loud enough to make her squeeze strawberry shake onto the windshield, where the extra ketchup burger, tomatoes, and mayo came undone and Technicolor fizzled as soon as the bullet entered behind your right ear. So, this is the world, part of the world where I come from. There are other poems. One's called Lechuzas. It's kind of the signature piece of that whole collection, and it deals with, lechuzas always are bad omens, right? Someone's gonna die when you see one. It's always happened to be the case in my barrio. So, from that context, I took the first train out, as they say. But it still stays with you, right? This world stays with you, and I've meditated on that, and I've meditated on some of the other socialization rituals that I went through. And one of them is boxing. Another one is soldiering. I was going to become an infantry officer in the Army Rangers at one point in my life before I became a communist. Right? Cuba had a good hand in that. But this collection here is called Red Leather Gloves, and it focuses all on my experiences as an amateur boxer and my socialization. And what I'd like to do right now is maybe just show a video about it. There are 4 or 5, possibly 6 videos that we're making in collaboration with 4 filmmakers in San Antonio: Laura Varela, Efrain Gutierrez, Ray Santisteban, and Jimmy Mendiola. Jesse Borrego's on the next one. We wanted to have it ready for California, but it's not ready yet. So we're doing a project called Vision and Verse, and they're developing their own take on some of the poems that I've developed, that I've written. And so this is the first one, more of a promotional piece, but it gives a sense of where I'm coming from ideologically, historically, and aesthetically. And then I'll read a couple of pieces from here, and then I'll talk a little bit about the other book, which is about my work in Cuba. So if we can maybe hit the lights real quick. Called Magnolia, which is in the Lower East Side of Houston, Texas. From 1978 to 1981, I was an amateur boxer for Championship Boxing of Galena Park, which is a small gym on the outskirts of the Houston Ship Channel. I kind of knew I was going to be a boxer because everybody in the family at some point in time was a fighter. All the men were fighters. Red Leather Gloves explores socialization of a young Mexican-American male, young Chicano male, who is taught to be a man within a very twisted paradigm. This book is about surviving brutality in the ring. It's about surviving the brutality that I was taught to inflict upon my opponents. So it has an existentialist quality as well, a metaphysical quality. What does it mean to be human? And this book explores that. I also wrote it as a meditation on survival, on resilience, on the indomitable spirit of humanity. Boxing inflicted a lot of harm on me, but it taught me how to survive. Now that the book is out, one worries about the artists, what they're going to say, one worries about the critics. I especially worry about what my family will say, because they're very sensitive poems, they're very meditative, and in my community and in my family, we're not supposed to share the intimate feelings, the fears, the vulnerabilities. And so I fear, what are they going to say about me? What are they going to say about my depictions of the ugliness of fighting? But it's honest, and it shows the realities that confront not just people who were growing up in poor barrios like I was, but all humanity. It's an existential meditation on our capacity as individuals in a society to inflict evil upon other people and sentient beings, but also our capacity to work our way out of it somehow, some way, over time, if we're honest about how far we've descended. Now that Red Leather Gloves has been published, it is cathartic. There's a cathartic dimension to finally having all this pain rendered through art shared with the world. It's a release. I finished this book, I purged it, and I can go on to my next projects and keep meditating on what it means to be human. read just maybe 2 or 3 pieces from this collection to show what I'm trying to do as part of this, what I'm calling Critical Masculinity Project. Again, it's an attempt to try to explicate the patriarchal socialization processes from inside out. And very painful testimonial poetry that tries to be as honest as you can without really giving you all the answers, because that's not the task at hand for poetry. Poetry problematizes what we thought we knew, and it helps us look at things from a different way, hopefully, so that other people can intervene and develop a politic as needed. So this first collection, this first poem is called Teeth, and it is recollections from first going into the gym. It's called Teeth. Coach Jim means well, I know, just worries I'll lose a filling in the chipped front tooth that's still held after 5 years and a month of training for my first fight. Welfare medicine is not supposed to be this good. He pulls my lip up, slow from the corner, curious like a pimp, lifts the dress of a runaway. He grabs my tooth between knuckle and thumb, pulls back and forth with the full weight of his body, refusing to accept defeat by strange composites of dental cement. I'm afraid you're going to lose it in the ring, he assures me with the calculated cadence of a doctor who can think of no more medicines to prescribe. His other thumb fondles the bottom lip, pushing at my gums for no apparent reason, then the nose. He smashes sharp bones in my cheeks with his palms, waiting for a grimace, looking for tears, wondering with his hands if I am worth the time, how many teeth I'm willing to lose, how much I care about my nose, the shape of my face, how much of myself I'm willing to surrender. And this whole experience of commodification of the bodies, of the brown bodies, right? I riff a lot on Whitman's poems, Body at Auction, etc. And as I look back upon it, I get angry at, because we were basically human gallos. And in fact, my coach not only bet on us, we were amateurs, he not only bet on us, I suspect he bet against us. Because we were not very good fighters. I was undefeated because I just became vicious. I was an animal, but not everybody was. And in fact, I have a poem about my stablemate. Hasta eso, they call us, it's a boxing stable as if we're horses, right? It's real bestial. And again, I say, it helped me. You cannot undo the skills that I learned in the ring, right? Because you had to learn them by chingazos, right? So it's helped me. It caused me problems, but it's helped me too. But Kino, to whom this book is dedicated, never learned, never became an animal. And I dedicate this book to him and to my tios. And it's the dedication for Kino, whose greatest victory was never learning the lessons we were taught in the ring. Y pa mis tios Valdez, who had no choice but to perfect them. And I'm in that camp too. I had no choice, really, to be honest. But this, the chingazos are so intense that we would sometimes skip training. And Kino did other things, and this is called gold. Kino sniffed gold Krylon paint from a red bandana every afternoon. We waited for the bus to the gym 20 miles away, past docks and cracked streets Coach Jim called Coontown. It wasn't far enough for Kino to recover from aerosol dreams he'd somehow make the Olympic team. He's the one who started me boxing, because I believed his heavy breath hype we'd both win gold medals, even though I knew he was no good at throwing punches. And he panicked when he hit, because the flash focused everything too fast. He couldn't take the jolts that made the ring bolts rattle like a ball bearing trying to break out of a can. Huffing helped, but Kino's hands were so slowed by the sprayed cotton rag they looked like torn cells fluttering to fight off the gloved gale-storm of another boy. Kino sprayed golden wet flakes of paint into a rag until they puddled and stunk so much his eyes lacquered, like that Olympian whose legs shook on the podium when he raised the gold to his lips as the colored flag unfurled and his song was sung. Kino never won a fight. The last time Coach Jim took a chance, he pitched the towel in the first round straight into Kino's face and screamed, "This ain't swimming!" when he saw Kino couldn't keep afloat no matter how much he wound his roller arms to keep from drowning in midair. So you survive by being an animal, and if you stay human, they destroy you. That was the paradox of the fighting. And I was in a gym that was no nonsense. I have a poem here called Mercy. The coach made me beat the shit out of this white boy who he knew would not ever be a good fighter. He actually did him a favor. He showed mercy on him. But it still stands, it sticks with me because I broke him. The first time he got in the ring, I destroyed him. But I was told to do that. I deal with that in a poem, and again, not with pride and orgullo. And in fact, I want to share one more poem with you to show you that this collection really deals with my survival of this experience. There's some pride, but there's also a vergüenza and a shame at what I had to do, right? What I had to do here. And this poem is called Knockout. I had 2 knockouts, and this was about one of them. Knockout. After arms start churning champagne bubbles from his crooked jaw, you recognize them as your own again. They grow from chest to heart-shaped leather sacks that are supposed to keep fists from drawing blood. He tries to back away, but the ropes won't let him. You've got him now. Your left forearm forming the straight back of a bloodhound on a scent as he hides behind hands, press hard to mouth, trying to keep that primal scream from escaping through padded gloves turned to rock boulders, a mountain too large and heavy to hold. His frozen eyeballs push their way through tightened slits, floating in a puddle of scarlet and white and some strange glowing yellow that seems to say, you did this. And you want to reach over, just reach over, throw your arms around his neck like you have been trained to do when hurt. But this would be a real hug, awkward with gloves, but a hug nonetheless. You want to squeeze him tight, chest to chest like your mother did when you saw Gugui. Hold him. Kiss his forehead with your boxer's big bruised lips so he knows you'll protect him from evil only children see. But you can't. They won't let you. If you let him recover, they will hate you, call you stupid Mexican, pussy, maricon, dark-skinned man with flat noses like your uncles who whistle that rhythmic curse, chinga tu madre, puto. You know they have paid hard-earned cash to see boys broken. So you let go of your arms again, ashamed of what they're about to do. This is the poem that Jesse Borrego was going to perform. He picked that one. He said he liked it. I'll read this last poem from here, and it's just, there's a lot of poems about the women in boxing and how they're incorporated into it. And this one is about my tia Lucy. It's actually called My Tia Lucy Hates Boxing. So everybody, as I said in the film, everybody in our family was a fighter. Actually, everybody except my 2 younger brothers. That was the biggest victory, right? I kept them from being boxers, and they wanted to. In fact, at one tournament, my little brother threw son chingazos in the stands. It's like he was already getting socialized into that. And he actually got, he had some difficulties, put it that way. But he's more or less doing okay if you just don't visit him for Christmas. As I said, right? My family, I tell you. Anyway, my tia Lucy hates boxing. My tia Lucy turns away from the fight on TV, nose wrinkled up, eyes tight as if she could smell the stinky hot sweat a boxer makes when he is trapped. She knows what will happen next. She's from a family of fighters whose arms were never strong enough to make them any more than working class, tyrants at home, all of them, because after a full day taking orders at work, they felt like they were in the gym again, preparing for the big break that only became a series of low-bet brawls year after year after year until they had no more bones to bet. They were proud bone breakers once. Now, all they do is break things, anything. Women in the family sweep up broken plates, pick up chairs, but fist print fossils still crawl across newly painted drywall. She hates boxing, my tia Lucy, because it never brought the men in the family anything, nothing. All she got was a husband and brother-in-law who punched fists all day into electrified bats at the plating shop, making shiny chrome bumpers and trinkets of gold. It gave her a brother who became famous all over town, only to weigh down his golden arm with bottle caps of boiling brown liquid. He could have been a contender if not for prison. Another brother's back bent like pipes he fondled at the factory every day until the foreman told him to just stop coming because his hands had become too slow to keep up with the young bucks begging for work each morning. With no more opponents, he couldn't see the bottle hit him from behind like a rabbit punch. My Tia Lucy turns away from the fight on TV. She just can't stand to see a man broken like that in front of everyone. She's seen it all before. A man's face crumpled stupid, eyes crossed and glazed like a newlywed, lips pursed crooked as if he were drunk with too much champagne from the reception, begging for a kiss from an angry new wife. She just shakes her head. She knows what's behind a winner's smile. He's just a boy trying to make an absent father proud, and he's surprised too that he won, wondering how long he can hide behind the muscles of a raised right hand. The man on the ground, a reminder of what awaits all boxers after the lights and shouts and gold-plated belts manufactured by workers who once had their own hands raised high in victory. But Tia Lucy has seen all this before, and she hates it. She just hates it all. So I was real worried about what was my Tia Lucy going to say. And hombre, she sent my primo to go get a whole bunch of books. I said, you better not charge me either. So yeah, I was actually quite pleased because I hit it. I hit it around the mark, I think, and at least according to her. Well, I'll read one more poem about the Venceremos Brigade if I can. And if you can, any books, I said, these books here go to prison education projects. Okay. So anything, don't leave without a book. Whatever you got, drop a few dollars on there and we'll figure it out. I'm sorry, the bookstore is selling them for a specific price. If you don't have enough, we can talk, and I just don't want you to leave without a book, and I don't want to take these back. We do have another reading at Cal State, LA on Thursday, but anyway, this collection here is for the Venceremos Brigade. And this is an organization that started in 1969 that travels to Cuba each year. And I'll just read two poems from it. And they travel to Cuba each year to do solidarity work with in support of the Cuban Revolution. In '69 they would go and they would meet Viet Cong guerrillas, right? In the '80s they would meet Sandinista guerrillas and Salvadoran guerrillas. But they would also do volunteer labor. We engage in educational exchanges. We meet with students. We pick fruit, pick corn, we do all kinds of different things, right? And we also get to meet some pretty amazing revolutionaries coming back from international missions, doctors, nurses. We meet Chicanas studying medicine in Cuba for free. Cuba has a program at the International School of Medicine where they'll pay your whole tuition if you want to go, and the only thing you give back is a pledge to work in a poor community. And there's in fact a picture here of a Chicana medical student with her little smock that says Chicana. There's evidence. Yep, people actually do that. And you meet a lot of other people. I met some soldiers who fought with Che, and I had the honor of working alongside one of them on a cornfield. This poem is about that, a cornfield in Cuba. We work wet fingertips deep into silky mud, searching for roots of weeds that must be pulled for the corn to grow as it should. Each of us has a row running up the Sierra Maestra. We are all new to this type of work, except Ezekiel from Oxnard. He picked strawberries for 5 cents a pound before he knew how to spell his name. He'll never eat another strawberry, he says, if the price is too low. And it's always too low, because the pay is too. That is why he has come to Cuba to work for free, so people can eat for free. Ezekiel is the only one to join the party, even though we all call ourselves communists back home. How could we not be ashamed of getting stuck in chocolate mud that hugs like a desperate lover? The leather Cuban compañero with teeth like maíz doesn't care about this and just keeps saying, es un honor trabajar con ustedes. He's got his own role, but helps others so he can ask questions in between the one we keep asking about what it was like to fight alongside Che. We pull weeds with each word of praise from this man, arms like a bazooka, and smile like a Caribbean sun that has broken free of storm clouds. It took the whole day of digging side by side before we realized he really meant what he said. He, too, is an internationalist. For his 45th birthday, he faced down South African nuclear bombs in the Battle of Cuito Canavale. We pull weeds as best we can, ashamed at our slow pace and fatigue we can't hide. But he knows what our meager work means and what it can lead to after each row is done. One of the legacies that people don't realize is that the Cuban, Angolan, and Namibian black troops defeated South African apartheid. The divestment movement had a role in it, but they were defeated on the battlefield, primarily because of Cuba's internationalist missions. We get to meet a lot of people, and we get to do a lot of things, and some things are very difficult. There are quite a few poems here that explore some of the contradictions that emerge in the special period. A lot of prostitution, child prostitution, really dangerous things that the Cuban government should know about and should intervene into and has not. But I'll read one last poem just to keep in mind that for all the problems, the Cuban Revolution has introduced a very important legacy, a very important model for that we have drawn upon as Chicanas and Chicanos, African Americans, but also for the world. And this poem I had the honor of reading in Spanish at the Che Memorial, right? It was pretty an amazing space to see it, though it has a little bit of Catholic overtone. So my poem doesn't, but the place does. Kind of a crypt. But it's called Nom de Guerre. And it's upon visiting the Che Memorial in Santa Clara, Cuba. And it's a reference on, you might have seen the death photo of him when he was shot. His eyes are still open. Looks like he's smiling. It's like, it ain't over, brother. That's the way I read it. Anyway, this is for him, for Che, and for everybody who wants to live like Che. How could he not smile, dead from 4 bullets and broken leg bones, as soldier added as ordered? How could he not laugh out loud at Bolivian anacondas sliding in the jungle under everyone's field blanket? Their names were just too silly to be taken as seriously as the weight of an M2 or gray pineapple hand grenade. Chino, Moro, Negro, and another guerrillero someone named Pedro Pan Divino as a joke that stuck even after death. Every nom de guerre, a secret and punchline among friends who saw something unique in compañeros whose real names they never knew. Some serious, Tanya, the guerrilla saint. Or a simple descriptor like Ernesto Medico, named before the other one, who had been given a name in the Sierra Maestra that meant, hey you, anyone, everyone. His brown eyes wide, lips parted, as if pronouncing the one-syllable word that brought 39 faces from all over the world together again forever. Okay, so I'll end there I was tempted to read a poem for Raul Salinas, for all the marijuanos in the house, but I'll just hold back on that one. You gotta buy the book for that one. Okay. So anyway, thank you for coming here. I'm here for any questions or dialogue. Appreciate it. And you buy the book. This money goes to for workers and students to go to Cuba. Faculty, or you're sitting on a big inheritance or whatever, buy 5 books. Yeah, seriously, it goes to the brigade, all of it, 100%. It's not about me. This is the brigade completely. So, and there's a good introduction here on the history of the brigade. Yes, sir.
What does this brigade do currently?
They're still involved. Every year we go to Cuba.
Describe that.
Gracias. So we go there. We travel through Canada illegally and overtly illegally, so that the government goes after us. As I mentioned earlier, we want them to go after us so that we can then go and fight a class action suit to lift the blockade, which we believe is illegal and inhumane. But so we go there, stay 2 weeks, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little less, and we meet with students, with workers, women workers. We do volunteer labor every day. Sometimes we're just weeding a field, sometimes we're planting trees, sometimes we're painting a school, and sometimes we're doing construction to build housing. It depends on what the needs are every year. And Our season is just before the harvest of citrus, but in the past they used to harvest citrus. It's basically volunteer labor, and we meet, we live in an international work camp with people from all over the world. There's brigades from India, from Sweden, from England, from Venezuela, Puerto Rico, all over, Dominican Republic. And we're just dialoguing. A lot of internationalists, mostly communists, but a lot of anarchists, a lot of Democrats, you know, I mean, a lot of military veterans, people from Vietnam War to other wars who are reassessing their legacies. So that's what we do there. And the main goal is to see socialism at work. What are some of the gains in socialism we want to see for ourselves? We don't just buy, we don't buy the hype. So we go to the mountains. We see how they do their healthcare. It's a best healthcare system in the world because they do preventative healthcare. You know, for every certain number of people, there's a doctor assigned, and you see them all the time. You have no choice. You have to see the doctor. Now, there's some other things that happen. You know, they do ration healthcare. We ration it here. It's called whatever you can afford, right? Over there, you know, sometimes people get injured with machetes. You know, we get a lot of city slickers. I'm one of them. Right, so you get cut with machetes, and one woman lost a finger. I was the medic on that sub-brigade, so we took her to Havana. Took us 2 hours to get there. By the time we got there, they said, well, she's got 9 more. I said, it's kind of gotcha if you ask me, but they were not going to spend all the resources to attach the finger. So there's a lot of microsurgery involved. So we see the good and the bad. We see, you know, what's going on there in Cuba. There's a lot of queer folks go in the brigade, and they critique the government for having placed HIV positive queer folks in sanatoriums. They give their position, people in the brigade challenge it, and there's the dialogue, and I discussed that in the introduction of this. But so that's what we do. It's educational and solidarity mission, but we're also warm bodies who are thrown out to get sued by the government, and they do go after us. It's not that, you know, well yeah, it's sometimes scary. But you know, we have a bunch of lawyers, real good warrior lawyers. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What's the penalty for going?
It's just $7,500, 5 to 12 years of prison. But again, that's just a threat. And there's different violations. One is spending money illegally in Cuba, which violates the blockade. Traveling illegally. Again, they call it illegal. Our lawyers have their own legal strategy. And it just depends on what else you have. So we have a comrade who was helping Salvadorans gain asylum without government approval, smuggling them in from Canada. So he went to prison, but because he was already being observed and watched. So there's the penalties, and then there's the other things that come from being, you know, under surveillance. Other questions? Do I want to go to Cuba? You want to go? Serious? It costs about $1,500. The brigade gives $500 scholarships to students. We're giving scholarships from this book for the Texas contingent, and your local contingent, and one of the people here, so she's got the most hardcore name, Chicana. Her name's Erica Compton, right? It's like that's her name. So she's helping to run. There are no leaders. She just has information. She doesn't run it. She'll give you information. So you'll have a fundraiser, Self-Help Graphics or somewhere else, Eastside Cafe, the Homegirl Cafe or whatever, and then you'll raise money. So you probably raise about $500. So you have to come up with $500. So you write a grant from your university, and I say, hey, you know, research, and then take $100. So with you, $200 maybe for spending. Though they give you everything you need over there. Any other questions? Hey, thanks for coming all the way down here and for bringing some warmth here. Thank you. All right.